TV party tonight!
What?
TV party tonight!
Oh!
We got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else!
We don't want to know
We're dedicated, yes.
To our favorite shows!
Oh, my tickets!
everybody loves hip photos.
Scary dog!
Dancing at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Rattlegion Broadcasting premiere podcast TV party tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Rattledge. And tonight, our favorite show is The Wheel of Time, brought to you by the good people at Radar Productions, Radar Love, I Watch Pictures, Long Weekend, Little Island Productions, Sony Pictures Television, and Amazon Studios. It aired on Amazon Prime Video from November 19th until December 24th, 2021. It stars Rosamund Pike, Daniel Henney, Zoe Robbins, Madeline Madden, and many other picture postcards. It is based on the series of fantasy novels by Robert Jordan. The premise is The Wheel of Time follows Moraine, a member of the Aes Sedai, a powerful organization of women who can channel the One Power. With her warder, Lon, she seeks a group of 5 young cannibals from the secluded 2 rivers, believing one of them is the reincarnation of the dragon, an extremely powerful channeler who broke the world. Don't you understand? The dragon reborn is prophesied to either save the world from primordial evil, known as the Dark One, or break it once more.
I really want you to read these books to me.
High drama and fantasy, a gripping tale of do-goodery and non-battery.
Non-battery. Holy crap.
And joining me in the non-battery tonight, ladies and gentlemen, the misfit and miscreant himself, your personal dungeon master. He will take you into his playroom and he will make you sign a document. Wait, no.
You watched 50 Shades today, and I have no place for that in my life.
Oh, wait. Yeah, that's Christian Grey. No, that's Christian Grey. This is Ronnie Adams. How do you do, sir?
I'm a far stretch from Christian Grey, that's for sure.
I am
You want to come into my playroom? Oh God, no!
Ronnie Adams just silkily moving up to a girl at the bar. You want to come check out my playroom? And she's like, "Yeah." Like you walk in there and there's fucking like D&D tables.
These are my dice.
Ronnie Adams just walks up to her, whispers in her ear, "Want to rattle my dice?" What's happening?
Oh, God, I came up with those.
Yeah, I was seeing if I can get you to Angry Dragon on camera.
No. What?
You've never heard of the Angry Dragon? I mean, there's a whole other element to it that wasn't going to happen here, but the end result is liquid comes out of your nose.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
So we're off to a roaring start here with the Wheel of Time.
My gosh.
They announced this last year that they announced it some time ago they were doing this, but it was announced that they started showing trailers for it. They gave a date for its debut. And I saw it and I was like, Ronnie Adams is always wanting to talk about stuff with me. Ronnie Adams likes the high fantasy, like the Lord of the Rings and the Dungeons and the Dragons and whatnot and that
right.
too. So I was like, I bet Ronnie Adams wouldn't mind talking about this. And so I pitched it to you and you were like, yeah, man, let's do it. You were telling me before we started tonight that you actually read the novels as a wee youngster. So what do you remember about them?
Yep. I don't know why I ate a Skittle right before this. I do remember Rand being the protagonist, and it was just basically about him. It just spans there's 11 novels now.
Mm.
I mean, so it spans this whole story of, there's so much I could get into. There's so much that I don't remember that I don't want to sound like an idiot about. But they are it's just different missions and they're trying to find the cause of wow, hey, look at that, of the dragon that's being reborn. And just like you said, And then they're sometimes they're like so far, like I don't know. They split the party in D&D terms a lot, and it's even for somebody who read this crap all the time as a kid, it was like hard to keep up with. But they're wonderful novels. They're wonderful novels.
I kept thinking about Lord of the Rings. Like, how is it that Lord of the Rings is this really, really dense, award-winning material, and I could follow it a lot easier than this? Like, this seemed dense and in the weeds, and like, again, I always compare it to that episode of Family Guy where Brian takes ADHD medication, and and he comes up with his own like fantasy world.
Yes,
and it's just a lot of gobbledygook.
Yes, and that I wouldn't call this gobbledygook. I keep throwing bottles. I know there's a trash can over there. Every time I'm on this podcast, I throw a pot. I throw a bottle.
You throw something, and you yeet something across the room every time we're on this podcast.
I drink something.
Like, you turn the camera around once, and there's going to be like this trash heap that talks to you.
A mountain of plastic bottles. You should really care about the environment, Ronnie.
Like Ronnie turns the camera around, and there's Marge going, "I'm like, hello, I'm the trash heap."
Oh God, if you only knew. No, I'm kidding. But it just, I mean, they do a lot of growing in their journeys. They gain a lot of experience, and I don't mean XP. I mean they have to have experiences as adventurers or whatever. And it's just, there's a lot. Like you said, it's very dense, and there's a lot of factions and groups and things like that. And they're all trying to find the Dragon Reborn. It all revolves around this.
Are we talking about an actual dragon here, or is that some sort of fancy title for some sort of wizard?
All of the above.
Yes, got it.
Yes. So Rand is a young sheep herder who finds himself on a fantastical journey through, and then it just takes off, and there's 10 more books. And then as a kid, I was like, man, I want to read all of this. And about book 4, I was like, there's a lot, kind of like, there's what's going on here. But let me look this up real quick. The Dragon Reborn is actually novels in there. In this Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. So, turns out, you're going to find out in the series. Rand has been declared the Dragon Reborn.
Okay. So
the Dragon Reborn is basically, he's like, he is Dragonborn from Skyrim, all this other stuff. So I'm doing a terrible job. I should have boned up on my book knowledge on this, but so it follows along. Like there's like a prequel book, and then 20 years later, Rand comes into light and all this other stuff, and like I said, they're wonderful books, but they're very hard for me personally to keep track of. So having never read them, or not had never read, haven't not read them in 15 years, it's very hard for me to remember things and for me to bull crap about it.
Well, that's
which I'm not trying to bull crap about it.
I get that.
But I'm just like, it's very hard.
Let me ask you this, because as I've talked about many times on these podcasts, I do listen to other people's stuff, some stuff on YouTube. So
Sure.
I like the Midnight's Edge channel, and I liked it more when they were just doing very short, like documentary type videos. And some newsreels of things they did. Like when the Sony hack broke, that's when shortly after that is when I found them, and they seem to have had a lot of insider information on what was going on with the Sony hack and everything. It's a very right of center and entertainment news entertainment channel on YouTube.
It's on my own podcast.
And they definitely have a right of center perspective on things, and they're one of the ones that I guess were complaining about this series, because I guess, and again I wouldn't know this, I never read the books, but I guess you're telling me that the book's focused on Rand, and
Yes.
they seem to have changed the perspective character to Rosamund Pike's character
Yes.
and made this very, I don't know if feminine is the right word, but very
I would
changed
say
the focus
feminist or
to the,
feminine. Yeah.
it changed the focus to the women characters and less on the men, which was a big complaint of theirs. I wanted to get your perspective on that.
There's definitely some girl power stuff going on in here.
Mhm.
I don't think they should have changed the main character, because I mean, you're changing the main character of 11, 12 books here.
Right.
So it's kind of like one of those things where I joke and say, right of center, but I'm kind of that way. But I'll be honest with you, not because I'm complaining about it, not because I'm like, ooh, girl bad or anything like that. Girls can't carry shows, bull crap. But it's just one of those things where, like, I expected more of what I read, so that's why I'm disappointed in it.
It's the big complaint, the more general complaint that they have is one that they're seeing the trend of. I think the Critical Drinker brought this up too, is it's like somebody sitting in a room looking at all of these fantasy and science fiction properties and going, girls like this stuff too.
Yeah.
Girls want to see themselves up on screen too. We should put more women and people of color in these science fiction and fantasy things, which, okay, sure, I'm all for inclusiveness. But I think the mistake that gets made is people want to see the authentic thing brought to life. And you can get away, I think, with casting people of color and maybe roles that were written for someone who was white. And maybe you can even gender swap them and get away with it depending on what you do. But what you can't do is wholesale change the narrative to the focus is on one character and not the other. Just to meet the agenda. It's like it's like Star Wars, just as an example. If someone were, they created Rey out of wholesale cloth, but what if the sequel trilogy was literally a remake of A New Hope, Empire, and Return of the Jedi, and instead of Luke Skywalker, it was Daisy Ridley.
Right, exactly.
He'd be like, "Wait, what the hell?"
So I mean, Leia would be a guy, Luke would be a girl,
right? And the whole thing focuses on, the Asian gal from the second movie.
I like her.
But my point is that people want to see the farm boy leave his home and go on an adventure. That was the thing that people liked about Star Wars. If you then change the perspective character to anybody else, the whole thing kind of crumbles to pieces in the eyes of the fans, and then they reject it. And I think that might have been the problem here.
I'm all about properties finding new audiences and everything. Okay, so you want to include women and people of color and different lifestyles and things like that. That's fine. That's fine. Mm-hmm. That absolutely do that if that is what you want to do. But when you, like you said, when you start changing things that have already been established for years and years, it's not poor white guy, old white guy sitting here complaining about, stay off my lawn and leave my toys alone. No, I'm just saying I find it cheapens me personally, I find it cheapens your narrative, your message when you take something that's been established and say, well, we're just going to change it because we can. Yeah. Okay. So,
we're not happy that this fantasy thing that everyone likes has a male lead. So we're going to make, so what if we elevate a different character who happens to be a woman and make that the centerpiece of the story? It's like, well, now you're not telling the story that everyone fell in love with and wanted to see.
Exactly.
How are you?
Exactly. Okay. So this is a little more of a comic book thing than anything. They wanted, so touchy subject here probably, but they wanted somebody for the LGBTQ plus community. Mm-hmm. So they took Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern, rewrote him and made him a gay man.
Right.
Whereas he had already established that he had a daughter and all this other stuff, and then they just wiped that out and said that doesn't exist anymore. Here's your gay character. Instead of saying, hey, let's take this opportunity and invent a new character who stands out, who has this, they did that.
Well, Ronnie, the unfortunate thing is there can only be one Green Lantern.
You're talking about the dog that hung out with Guy Gardner, right?
There's only been about 500 different
I
Green
know.
Lanterns.
Right.
You know, it's like if you can make a female Hispanic one and a male Muslim one, you can make someone who is also of the LGBTQ community. It's fine. There's like 9,000 Green Lanterns.
Look at
To your
North
point,
Star.
they didn't have to rewrite Alan Scott.
Right. Look at North Star. So,
mhm.
but then you say, I really feel like, well, it's not going to go over well if we keep Rand as the main focus, because he is, he's a guy,
Mm-hmm.
and there's more, women want to enjoy this. Well, most of the people that are women that have read this, that have talked to me about it,
Mm-hmm.
are pissed because Rand isn't the main person.
Right. And that's another thing that comes up a lot on Midnight's Edge. And I know I've talked about this before. They went out of their way to create a female-led podcast that they do, video podcast on Midnight's Edge, called Toxic Femininity. Their major complaint, like the through thread of all their shows, is we as girls fall in love with fantasy and sci-fi products. We want to see the actual sci-fi fantasy product on screen, not a agenda-driven, gender swapped thing that you think will satisfy women. It's like, no. We like this as it was. Just put it what it was on screen. People liked Xena Warrior Princess. We talked about this when we did the Mythica stuff. People liked Xena Warrior Princess as it was. You had a kick-ass, strong female character. That show was liked by both men and women. That appealed to just about everybody. Like, was it the most popular show ever? No. But I mean, my point being is that they created something new out of whole cloth. You created a strong female character. The guys loved it. Women who love fantasy loved it. And it was a big hit for what it was.
How is that not more popular now than it was then? Because you go back on Xena, everybody's gay in that. Like, I'm serious, man. I mean, like,
everybody's gay.
Everybody's gay. Like her, like I remember saying, "Oh, Lucy Laws, she's very pretty. She kicks butt and all this."
Mm-hmm.
Then her little sidekick came on. I was like, "Oh, I like her."
Mm-hmm.
She had a thing for Xena, man.
Sure.
For a long time, they had a thing going on, and then she had a thing going on with some other girl, and then some other guy, and then all this. I was like, "Oh, they just be sleeping with everybody up in here."
Yeah.
There
were 2 Conan movies, and then there was a Red Sonja movie.
Yeah.
For what that's worth. There was Sheena of the Jungle. I mean, there's all kinds of things where there are female protagonists to be had that you can put in sci-fi and fantasy roles, or you can just invent something new.
Good. Yes.
Right. But taking an existing thing and then trying to who else is in this cast of characters that we can make the lead instead? See, that's just going to annoy people.
Yeah, and you can't really speak out and say that it annoys you, because then you get, the few that are loudest will be like, "Well, you're a misogynist." No, I just like what I read 20 years ago. Why do we have to change it?
All right, so let's actually talk about the show that we do have here. And again,
sorry,
I can't. Well, no, you're fine. I mean, it was a good discussion to be had, and you just said like, "Oh, you can't say that out loud." I mean, this is going to be seen by tens of people, so on the internet's even. So here we are fighting against woke culture on the Rattlegion Broadcasting Network, for what that's worth. Anyway, so Rosamund Pike is your main character. She plays Aes Sedai. Or rather, Moraine Debodred, who is an Aes Sedai. Mm-hmm. Rosamund Pike, the last thing I saw her in was I Care a Lot with Peter Dinklage, which was fun. I think she's clearly a talented actress. She's a good person without having known what this was, or before I did any research on it. She's been in plenty of films. She's a good I think she's a good person to. Apparently, she got nominated for a whole bunch of crap for Gone Girl. She's a good person to lead your high fantasy drama. So, what did you think of her character? What did you think of that portrayal?
Rosamund?
Yeah.
I thought she's great. As far as I'm a fan of hers anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I just think she's a good actor, but I thought she did a great job in spearheading this. So much so, I've constantly found myself saying, it's a shame that she doesn't have her own show. I mean, why didn't they write something for her instead of cheapening her?
Commandeering this one.
Yeah, here, Here, this dude drove this one forever. Here, you can drive this one. You can drive just as good.
Mm-hmm.
Give her own. Let her drive it herself.
How does making her the focus? Because, like I told you before we started, and I'm going to admit this. Maybe people don't want to listen to the podcast after I say this out loud, but I had a hard time really following this show. And like, I'm somebody who
I did too.
Who again watches Lord of the Rings and watches a lot of high fantasy and is gripped by it. But I was really having some difficulty keeping up with what was happening. I didn't understand a lot of it. Part of that was the first couple of episodes, as I was watching it, I was way distracted by whatever was happening in the chat. So I would look up every once in a while. I'm like, oh, a village is being slaughtered. And then I go back to my phone again. But I even reading through, like, I read through. I don't want to go episode by episode anymore because I feel like that drags down the podcast. But I did go through and read all the plot synopsises for the episodes, and after I read it, I was like, well, that fills in some of the blanks, but this is still a lot of gobbledygook. So I don't know. So I guess that goes to my question, like, how does changing it to Rosamund Pike's character change the narrative from what you remember of the books? And does it improve it? Does it make it worse?
Not really. It doesn't improve it. I hate to say that. It just kind of it doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, why?
Because why is the focus on her when she's obviously not the Dragon Reborn, when it's going to be Rand who is actually in the series? Why is it focused on her when he's the most important?
She keeps saying, as in every episode, as she's going on and on, she's like, I gotta find the Dragon Reborn. If I don't find the Dragon Reborn, then the darkness will overcome us and we'll all die. And it's like, and to your point, so I'm following her, and I'm following her on this adventure as she goes hither and yon to go find the Dragon Reborn. And that just the way you were describing it, that does seem very, very different from the story of, a boy coming from a small town going off on a big adventure and finding out that he's the hero of the story all along.
He's a sheep herder.
Yeah.
Who I remember him having something going on with the I guess the mayor of the town, his daughter, not him, but his daughter.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, he had a life, he's just chilling there. He's like, oh, I'm going to marry her, or I'm in love with her. And I've, herd the sheep, and I do this. And all of a sudden he's like, no, you're a very important person that's going to keep the darkness from coming in, coming down on us and killing, ending the world. And you're like, who, me? And then it goes from that to, okay, there's a movie called The Seventh Son. And it has, I can't remember his name right now. Big Lebowski.
Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges in it. Now he just constantly looks like he's chewing on hay. He has that voice. He juts his jaw out. So he does that the entire time. But basically, he takes the seventh son of a seventh son, or something like that, and he says, "Hey, you're going to be a witch hunter. Come with me." He pays his family. He takes him under his wing, and you think it's going to be about the kid, right? And you keep thinking, okay, this guy's going to grow, he's going to become this powerful witch hunter, magic user, all this other stuff. But ends up it's just Jeff Bridges chewing scenery forever, and doing his thing and being the hero and everything. I'm like, but what about the kid? He's the one with the sword and the purpose and the training. You're trying to train him. And even in the end, they're like, it's sad because he takes over Jeff Bridges' job, and he's like, well, what's Jeff Bridges going to do? I'm going to go retire.
Right.
But what about the other kid? I don't care about you. I mean, you're supposed to be training this guy to take over for you. So that's what it feels like. It feels like it's definitely focusing more on the trainer, the keeper, the finder, whatever, than it is the main person. That's what
I was going to say. You know what it comes across like? Instead of having Frodo be your focus character, your main character, your perspective character, and you're following his journey. And granted, the party splits up, as you say, and you start to follow adventures from everybody else. But the thing anchoring this is Frodo. Will Frodo succumb to the ring and and become a slave to Sauron, or will he find his inner strength, resist the ring, and throw it into the fires of Mount Doom? Now, what if we only followed Gandalf?
That's exactly it. That is exactly, you're
Right.
exactly right. I mean, like, there's some argument to say whether that Sam or Frodo is the main character, but those are your two focuses right there.
Yeah.
Because they have the ring, they're going to Mount Doom, they're going to throw it in the volcano, and blah, blah, blah. So when they get on the road, the Fellowship finally gets on the road. It's a lot of Gandalf. Like, what do you think, Gandalf? What's going on, Gandalf? Do you think we can find it, Gandalf? Like, who can focus on Frodo in the ring, man? And then when they split up at the end, and Gandalf, sacrifices himself, they run out, they get the snow, and then it goes smash cut to Gandalf fighting all the way down, and then you just see Gandalf.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while, you're like, oh yeah, we're hiking. And then that's what it feels like, honestly. And I think that's why I had such a hard time getting into it. It's not that she's doing a poor job of portraying her character. It's not that she's it's the fact that she's a she. It's just the fact that it's taking a different aspect of it.
It's not really her story.
It's not her story at all. It's Rand's story, and they're taking a different aspect of this, telling this story. And it's not necessarily one that I want to see or hear, because I want to hear the original part of it.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So the second listed character here is Daniel Henney as Elaine Mandragoran, who's Moraine's water. Ronnie, I'm not going to even lie. I can barely tell who this fucking person is in this story.
I know, right? I have no clue. When it comes to the books, I don't know who this person is.
Okay.
Like I said, it's been a while. I should have boned up on my book knowledge, but I have not. I failed you and the podcast gods, and I apologize. But
I'm gonna ask you about one more character here, and then I think I'm gonna give up on this line of questioning.
Sure.
So you have Joshua Stradowski, who actually plays Rand.
Yes.
I guess he's the kid with the red hair, kind of curly.
Yeah, not exactly what I thought he would be.
Yeah, tell me about him in this show. What did you think of him and what they had him doing? Were you
not
interested?
Much?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, he definitely has some going to the Tashi station feelings on him. A little, sometimes a little whiny. Maybe I'm just too hard on the character because it's not what I want. But I don't know. In my mind, for some reason, I've always seen Rand a little different. A little bit physically different than what we get in the story there. Do I remember if they describe what he looks like? I'm sure Robert Jordan described what he looks like, but I'm that kid that when I read it, I was like, well, I don't like that description. This is what they look like in my brain now.
What did you? So if you could redevelop this show and recast it, who would you cast as Rand?
That is a really good question. Being as young as he is, or supposed to be, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say the kid. What's his name? Let me look it up real quick. I apologize.
Okay, well, you do that. Well,
I got it right here.
Okay, go ahead.
Tanner Buchanan from Cobra Kai plays Johnny's son.
Oh, him. Okay.
Yeah, I think he would be great in that.
Okay.
He's got the physicality now, and he's actually a good actor.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to have seen him in it. He's kind of got that.
He's got the abs for the role.
Well, in season 4, I was like, well, okay, where did all that come from? But I took karate as a kid. I
did not have abs you could play on in a jug band.
Right. That's how he washes his clothes in the morning, But yeah, what were you going to say, though?
I was going to say that Grammarly.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because I don't know how much longer this podcast is going to go. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and everywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes, while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. So download Grammarly today. Go to getgrammarly.com/W2M Network. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2M Network to download Grammarly for free. All right. Let's just spend a few more minutes talking about this. I don't know how much more either one of us have to say. One of the things that make high fantasy shows really fun to watch is the settings, the set
Oh,
pieces. What did you think of the cinematography in the show?
The cinematography is good.
Mhm.
You could definitely tell this is season 1 of a high fantasy show or a fantasy sci-fi show.
Mhm.
Because at times it does look like they just went and got a bunch of people from Ren Fair and said, stand here and react the way we tell you to.
Can I tell you, as I was watching this, I was like, this will be a fun one to discuss with him, because this is, I think it's like one level higher quality than Mythica.
Absolutely. That's what I was thinking myself. I was like, that when I was watching, I was like, man, I know I'm going to talk about this with Mark, and Mythica is going to come up because of this. But you look at the first season of The Walking Dead.
Mhm.
The first season of The Walking Dead had what we would consider now as abysmal special effects, because they didn't know how long it was going to last. Why spend all this money on something that may not last but a season? And then, Walking Dead goes on to actually, last how many seasons? I forget now. And then the kid grew up, the babies are growing up, and they're like, we don't know what to do here. It's only been like 36 days in a zombie apocalypse over the 10 years the show's been on the air. But so I was watching it and I was like, man, that looks really terrible as far as some of the special effects. But I like the settings, man. I should have looked up where did they. You usually know this stuff. Where did they film?
Well, let's see. Let's look at the filming for this. Filming principal photography for the first season started in September of 2019. It was filmed in Prague. And then okay, I guess it was just filmed in Prague.
Okay, so I looked at it on IMDb. Bovic, Slovenia, Prague, Spain, and the Czech Republic and Spain, and Croatia are the 3 places. So I know next to nothing about Croatia and the Czech Republic, but it's pretty.
So I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah,
because I was like, it might be fun to kind of see what the audience score is. Okay, I just found it. So I'm going to read some of these to you. I think this is what we're going to spend the rest of our time doing here. We're going to look at some of the comments here from Rotten Tomatoes, just from the fans. I don't care about the critics on this one.
Yeah.
I want to see what the fans thought of this. So we have the first comment here, 0.5 star. We're already off to the races.
Yeah.
Costumes looking like B-tier fantasy movies from 1998 with $50 as budget. Story rarely makes sense and is full of plot holes, with majority of the cast being utterly unlikable.
What?
The characters have no personality to them other than being whiny, and most of them spend the entire series standing around doing nothing. CGI looks cringeworthy most of the time. I would give it a miss and just go read the books instead. What do you think about that?
I think that was a little harsher than it needed to be. I get what you're saying. A lot of it. It's not what we wanted, but it's what we've got. Sure. It's not. I mean, like I said, kid that's playing Rand is a little Tashi station for me. Like Tashi station because of power converters, but little whiny. But he's still. I mean, it's not that bad.
Okay.
But I think this is just a pissy fan that likes the books better.
Okay, so there's lots more pissy fans to go here. So first of all, this thing got I think a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, not great.
The critics seem to like it a little bit more than that, but so the series started promising, but the actual story and the characters never really developed. The first season ended up in a horrible last episode with plot holes, boring scenes, and unnecessary character introductions. Okay. Generic and so boring. Can't get into it at all, even though I'm a fan of the genre. Bad writing, awful acting, bad world building, boring. All right, it's a lot of that. Yeah. All right, so here's someone who didn't read the books. Didn't read the book specifically because some friends of mine had said it made watching the show worse. However, the show wasn't that good. Nothing got wrapped up, and the acting throughout was fairly wooden. I think the show tried to use long dramatic pauses and looks of what can only be described as constipation to build tension instead of building it through the story. I would advise avoiding. To that person's credit, that was kind of my problem with a lot of the show. Was if again, just kind of comparing it to Lord of the Rings, there were some really passionate parts of Lord of the Rings. Like, you could definitely feel the sense of urgency the world was going to end. But then there's also, we'll call it, just for conversational purposes, kind of like that Shakespearean sort of haughty dialogue readings and,
absolutely,
character interactions. But even at their most wooden, they still have a lot of drama to them. And it feels like everyone gets the kind of like Spider-Man No Way Home. Everyone takes the wrong lesson from Lord of the Rings. They're like, okay, in order to make a high fantasy film, everyone, it's like another way of looking at it. It's like George Lucas, no girls wear bras in space kind of a thing, where he thinks that just because you're in space or just because you're part of a fantasy world, nobody has any emotions.
Right.
Like,
yes.
everyone has to deliver dialogue like they're doing readings of King Lear, and it's like, no, how about just make them people who, when faced with certain situations, react like people. And then you got to turn it up a little bit because you're doing a drama and you have to capture your audience. And this one definitely felt like, like someone thinks that doing fantasy means nobody can have any emotional line readings.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I'm sure, like, you're in the first season Amazon show about a beloved book like the series of books like this, and then you're not sure if you're going to get picked back up or people are going to say, "Oh, we hate you. We want you all to die because you're ruining our books and our childhood or whatever." So you don't put a whole lot into it. So I mean, that's a lot of your iffy shows get better the second season, like Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec had no clue what kind of show it wanted to be. It wanted to be The Office the first season, and nobody liked it. So they started dropping that, and then in the season 2, it really found its way, and then it was a phenomenal show after that, in my opinion. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know, but they weren't the best in the world, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't completely abysmal. Right.
Not to pick at a poor subject for people, or a sore subject rather, but like The Big Bang Theory started out as very much one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I bring this up because when I posted that show that my wife and I did that agitated a few people I know. Anyway,
fart noises.
Yeah, a couple of people who had just seen that for the first time were like, "Yeah, I liked The Big Bang Theory when it first started out, but when they started introducing all the wives and girlfriends later on, it just becomes a completely different show, and that wasn't a show I was interested in watching." Which I think is a valid complaint. It's not
it
one
very
that
much so is. Yeah,
it's not one that I personally agreed with. I thought adding the female characters gave the show a richer dimension.
Absolutely,
but clearly other people might feel differently, and I think either opinion is valid. Either way, the idea of something just not changing what you liked about it in the first place and then becoming something completely different, and you're going to lose part of your audience. That's a valid issue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a couple more of these, and then we'll start to close out. Never has such a bland cake been made from such rich ingredients. Biggest flaw of the casting, especially the 5 characters from the 2 rivers. A special distinction goes to Marcus Rutherford for depicting a bland, unlikable, slack-jawed Perrin. Greatest strength is Rosamund Pike and Daniel Henney do a great job. Unfortunately, their performances only highlight the poor acting of many others.
Okay, so they are the 2 best actors you've got in the series.
For sure.
I don't think that... I think people are just looking for something to be down on this show about.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to find someone here that gets all neckbeardy about it, but I'm seeing a lot of the same stuff.
They're neckbeardy in a different way.
Easily the worst show I've ever suffered to watch. They thoroughly destroyed the entire genre, the entire story, deviating wildly from the books. Why bother adapting something if you're not going to bother following the main plot points, which is what we talked about? Just make a new IP rather than hacking to pieces of someone else's stuff. My wife and I talked about this with we just watched the 50 Shades, first 50 Shades movie, and my wife is going to come on and do the entire trilogy once we're done watching the movies. And one of the things we had a conversation about as we were watching these sexy bondage movies is that an adaptation is not strictly just tearing the pages out of the book and storyboarding them and voila, lobster. There are certain, this was my screaming and yelling argument that I've had about Lord of the Rings, where people were like, where was Tom Bombadil? Why are you giving his lines to the Ents? That sort of thing. It's like this.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
There's only so much you can put up on the screen. You've only got so much time to work with. And the idea is kind of take the idea of the thing that you're adapting and create a narrative, a visual narrative story out of it, so that that makes the best use of its medium. Movies are not television, television are not movies, and so you're going to do things differently, and you're not going to see every written word of a book up on the screen.
You have more leeway with time and content when it's a TV show.
Yeah.
That being said, they completely they completely changed the aspect and the outlook of the story.
Yeah.
By switching characters, which is something we don't want them to do. Well, I mean, like, okay, so you have no matter if it's a special edition or not, you got 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever. Tom Bombadil, in my opinion, would have added nothing to that movie and would just confuse people that had never seen or never read the book. It's just like when you look at Marvel movies. People get all pissed off because it's not exactly like the comic books. Well, I'm sorry, but we don't have time to go back 50 years to adapt every single story that you love to put it on the screen. We take what works and we make a nice little pizza out of the different toppings that we have. We put it in the oven and we give it to the people and they're happy. And that's what happens with TV shows and movies of our favorite content, of our favorite IP, from the past. I get that. Now, if you ask me, there's certain ones like Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, stuff like that they completely changed just because they can. That it was, that kind of like, I didn't like it, but some people do, so I don't take that away from them. But I mean, you have to take what works and make it work well when it comes down to putting it on the screen.
Okay, I'm gonna read this last one. This is a bit lengthy, but this is kind of hilarious to me, and I need your reaction to it. I need your take on this. What this person says.
Here we go.
Okay, this is like literally like a week ago. This person wrote this, and he wrote a fucking essay here.
I'm ready.
Okay, 0.5 star. Lots of problems with this show have already been noted, but I signed up for Rotten Tomatoes specifically to point out that it's a British colonial fantasy rife with anti-Semitism and white supremacy. Ronnie, I'm going to need you to just yell, get your politics out of my fantasy show.
What the what?
Wait, this gets better. But I'm going to need you to say the line, Ronnie. Say the line.
Get your politics out of my fantasy yard.
In this show, the tow-haired Aryan foundling named Thor travels from the hinterlands to the cosmopolitan seat of the Empire. He's accompanied by a black woman in the mother role who has healing powers, his good-hearted but simple and oafish black friend, and a Mediterranean-looking character who has corruption in his soul. They're led by the righteous but cold Aryan woman from the Cold Lands and her loyal samurai. I don't know what stereotype to pigeonhole Egwene, but I'm sure there's one out there. In the capital, Thor discovers his mission and is sent to sojourn to the vassal state at the Borderlands, the sole ethnically homogenous place in the show. When they arrive, the monarch asserts his nation's independence from the Empire, but upon a show of power by the emissary of the Empire, he bows and scrapes in humbled subservience. Here it is revealed that the wandering peddlers are actually agents of the evil Semite sent out into the Empire to spy on the people. The villain's plan is to move hordes of monstrous dark invaders, from outside the Empire through underground tunnels to conquer and destroy the civilized world. In the climactic battle, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, pure Aryan from the north defeats the dark-haired, hook-nosed Jew. The casting choices could have leaned away from these stereotypes, but instead they leaned so far into them, they cast an actor who looks like a Nazi propaganda poster. It's vile tripe and not helped at all by a terrible script. Bad pacing, bad acting, and a completely unoriginal plot. Maybe the source material could have been redeemed by a different production, but this is absolute garbage. That might be my favorite review I've ever read.
Who wrote that?
Someone.
You won't say it out loud.
No, it literally says someone.
Oh, well, someone who wrote this. I want to fight you. with knives, fists, whatever you choose. I want to fight you in my front yard. I want it to be like Mel Gibson versus why can't I remember his name? Crazy guy, motorcycle accident, Lethal Weapon. Gary Busey. I want there to be water on the yard. I want us just to start swinging at each other. And I will take you down like he did, like Mel did Gary. And I will make you suffer for what you've written on this on the internet. Just because you can and you were off your meds that day doesn't mean you should. What in God's name were you even thinking when you were? I mean, like, is it a joke? It has to be a joke. I don't understand anything. I
think there might have been a little projection there.
A little bit. A little bit. Good God. Like, I got nothing like that out of this show. I would have been happy with, it was crap, and I think it's crap, and everybody else is crap for who likes it. I've been like, okay, that's about normal. But this is a special kind of stupid. All right, I'm done now.
I'm sure there are people who read his, or have had similar issues. I mean,
reviews like that is why I need a bottle of Tylenol this big.
I mean, to his point, I do think that this is yet again another vehicle to push an agenda, but I don't really care.
Wrong agenda.
Well, not only that, but I just don't care enough.
I don't either.
But as you were talking, I was flipping through some of the other comments. A lot of it's the same thing over and over and over again, that they really didn't adapt the source material. They kind of took the flavor of the source material and just did their own thing with it. And it goes right back to what I've said constantly through several other podcasts. It's not about us, making females your leads, not about them being heroes, not about making black people your hero. Might be for some, but they're a smaller minority than people think they are. The problem that gets the fans in an uproar and makes us toxic is when you completely change something from its original source material to the point that it's unrecognizable.
Mm-hmm.
Make something new and take your chances in the marketplace, because I think that's the biggest problem we're having right now in Hollywood, to kind of take this from the specific to the general, is they don't want to take a chance on anything new because people aren't comfortable with new. They won't give it a chance, and then projects will die on the vein.
Oh.
So they take something that is recognizable, that people go, oh, I know that, I like that, I'll check that out. But they don't want to do that. They just want the name.
Right.
They want to take their agendas and their ideas and and their values, and they want to make a show out of it, and then they want to slap the name of something that's recognizable onto it and hope it all works out. And in the entertainment media, it tends to work out. The critics tend to like those things, but the fans then want to burn down the studio, and this pattern just repeats itself over and over and over again. Ronnie.
Yeah. I'm sitting here thinking, like, I don't know. I just listen. Give me a Wheel of Time. That's all I want.
So we have to review season 2 now when it comes out.
Yeah, I know. And maybe
when you sign on for these, I have to make you do the whole series, no matter how bad it is.
We're still going to do Invincible season 2.
Yep.
There's one more I need to talk to you about after this too. Okay. But I mean, I'm down for it. Maybe I can have a little more something a little more intelligent to say about season 1, because I'll go back and watch season 1 again before I watch season 2.
Okay.
I did that with The Witcher, or I tried to. It just took up a lot of time, And I was like, no, I got to get The Witcher in. But maybe I'll have something a little better to say during that. But I'm telling you right now, you took something and you completely switched the narrative on it. And that's why people are crapping on it right now.
Right.
And they'll find every little nitpicky way to tell you that. Oh, the special effects look like, my dog pooped on a trombone. I don't know what I'm saying right now. But
if they loved it, no one would care.
Right.
Because it's not like there's not like entire essays committed to hating on Xena, Warrior Princess, and Hercules based on the special effects, because they're beloved.
Like the swords they had in there were blunt on the edge, and you could tell it. I mean, like they were rounded. I mean, like you could tell.
Like literally borrowed from the Ren Fair next door.
Exactly. They went and made them out of wood real quick, You got a big bar of soap and made a dagger out of it, But I didn't care. I loved it. I thought it was great. Right. When you see Hercules grab the blade of a sword and use like a baseball bat. I'm like, you should have no fingers.
Right. That's what kills me. It's like if people are inclined to hate something, nothing about it there's no context anymore. They just nitpick at every little thing and trash it entirely.
And
but if the Wheel of Time looked like garbage, but people liked it, suddenly the CGI, suddenly it wouldn't care what it looked like.
No.
People would be like, I love this show, and if you don't love it too, I'm going to come to your house and punch a baby. Like, all right.
It can be me with like a blanket over my head going, I'm a troll, and they'll be like, oh, that was beautiful. I mean, the practical effects in this were fantastic.
I had a blanket like that my nana gave me. I loved it.
I'm a troll. But it just, I don't know, man.
All right.
I'm not a big fan of this, but you know what? I am a fan of music.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to ask you about.
I know.
So you're still doing Rhyme of the Frost Maiden over
Yeah.
So what kind of music are you playing as your weary travelers transverse the cold in your D&D world?
It's a little different because I play specific
Just tell me what music you're playing.
To get ready for this, I actually listened to the soundtrack from the 80s The Thing movie.
Oh, really?
Yes, because that's the feel that it has.
It's funny you say that. The guys from Red Letter Media ranked a bunch of John Carpenter movies over Halloween. I think they talked about the music from The Thing being really badass.
It's so good, man. It's just the 80s synth and not overwhelming and stuff like that. But I don't play certain I played non-profit music or whatever you call it. It's actually an app called Sirenscape, but that makes music for it. That way I can stream it without getting a tick. But to get ready for that, I listen to John Carpenter's The Thing soundtrack, and when I'm doing others like the high fantasy stuff, I listen to like Manowar and the battle metal, stuff like that.
And do you know where you can find all of those things, Ronnie?
I'm thinking Amazon.
You are correct in how you're thinking. Yes, we are giving away a free 30-day trial of the Amazon Music Unlimited service. So head to getamazonmusic.com/W2M Network. Again, that's getamazonmusic.com/W2M Network. Make sure you complete the sign-up process. Agree to the 30-month free trial. And check out all the battle metal and epic progressive metal and soundtracks to your favorite movies. Over 70 million songs. There's always something you can find on Amazon Music. And then if you don't like it, if you're just like, oh, I don't need this in my life, you can cancel it at any time. You can cancel it at the 30 days. No fuss, no muss, no pains in the butt. All right, Ronnie, that is it. You and David got a lot of play this month, man. You were all over the Rattle Broadcasting Network.
I enjoy it.
Yeah. February, though, I dedicated almost entirely to Jason, so you've only got one show.
I have two, actually.
Which two? I know there's Marry Me, but what else?
Oh, no, it's going to be on a much later date then.
Yeah, what are you talking
about? I was talking about my source material show. But
that's
a pre-recorded that you shouldn't pay attention to me. I'm drunk. I'm drunk right now.
Well, aren't you doing Uncharted?
We are doing Uncharted.
Oh, that might be the second thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
So yes, you will be on two shows in the month of February. You're going to be on the source material for Uncharted, and that's going to air February 14th. And then you're going to be on two shows in one day, as a matter of fact.
Nice. I have hit the pinnacle.
Yes. You're going to be on Jesse Starcher's source material for Uncharted on February 14th, Valentine's Day. And then you're going to spend the evening, Valentine's Day evening with me, Ronnie Adams. You're going to spend Valentine's Day with me.
I am single and ready to go out on a date on February the 14th.
You're going to spend it with me. I'm your date for Valentine's Day.
Any lucky ladies that enjoy nerdiness and this stud right here, just hit me up.
So, yeah. Ronnie Adams and I are going to review, we're going to read the comic book, Marry Me, and we're going to compare it to the movie that's day and date on Peacock with Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson. Marry Me, Marry Me, Marry Me. How do you feel about that?
Only you can save me from this fate. I'm talking to you, lady.
If you're on Twitter and you happen to be seeing this review, he's shown up on Twitter.
I am.
SH0NUFF.
I am. And I don't use Twitter, so if you add me, I will notice it because we're like, what the crap? What is this? My phone's made a new noise.
I at you all the time.
Do you? Never
Yes.
mind. You can find me on Instagram. I use that a lot more.
Okay. Well, anywhere that we're promoting this show will be either Show Enough or Misfits and Miscreants. And you like what you have to see. If you want to save Ronnie from his fate of having to do a podcast with me on Valentine's Day about a rom-com based on a comic book, then that's where you'll find him.
I will even go on a virtual date.
Don't do it. I don't have anyone else to back me up on this. I'll have to make my daughter do it.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Bless her heart.
Yep. All right. In the meantime, this has been a busy week for me. I feel like I've just done 1,000,001 shows. Monday we did Jesse and I did The Power of the Dog, Cop Shop, and The French Dispatch.
Jesse didn't do that with you.
I'm sorry, Ronnie. You're Ronnie. You're Ronnie Adams. Ronnie. The Screaming Boy podcast.
Yep.
Tuesday, Robert and I reviewed Munich, and we gave a brief history lesson and all the stuff that led to World War II.
That was brief.
Oh, you like that show? Okay. On Wednesday, my son and I did an alternative commentary for AEW Beach Break, which was a lot of fun. Right after that, we reviewed the Night Flight Orchestra Aromantic 2. Earlier today, Pat and Bailey couldn't make it, but thankfully, Stuart Lang, who is very passionate about these three particular WrestleManias, came on the show. So we talked about the mania of WrestleMania 14, 15, and 16. Tomorrow, Gavin Napier will be on the show, and we'll be doing a watch-along for the 1992 Royal Rumble event. And then Saturday, we have the Trip Trivia for video games, plus the Podsman and I will be doing a Royal Rumble alternative commentary for the live 2022 Royal Rumble. Sunday, my son and I are going to be providing an audio-only alternative commentary for the original Jackass movie, just in time for the new one to come out. And then late in the evening, like right before midnight, the Indeciders, myself and Harry Broadhurst, will be reviewing The World on GCW and No Holds Barred 21, featuring Fat Shane Douglas. Monday night, myself, Evan Bevins, and Andrew Graham will be reviewing the entirety of Kevin Smith's Masters of the Universe Revelation.
Wow.
And then Alexis Hana, this will be my last plug. Alexis Hana will be on to do Tuesday. No Damn You Hollywood, but I will have Alexis Hana on to do a triple feature for Belfast, Passing, and Come On, Come On. 3 black and white, possibly Oscar-winning pictures for your listening pleasure, because who doesn't love to listen to podcasts about Oscar bait? All right, Ronnie, I'm going to quick stop my camera, and I'm going to let you do your plugs.
Okay, cool deal. My plugs go as far as this. I have a Twitch channel. I'm actually airing this right now on my Twitch channel called Misfits and Miscreants. Now, what we do on there is we actually I have an actual play Dungeons and Dragons stream. We get together, we play Rime of the Frost Maiden every other week. So this week will be an off week, but session 9 is still up there, so you can watch that. We have a blast. It's a lot of fun. I've got some great players. I got 7 people at the table. It's really cool. We're going to get into more stuff. We've got some cool other systems planned to do one-shots, such as Alien, Fallout, Kids on Bikes, Monster of the Week, things like that. So it's going to be a lot of fun getting those going. We also stream some Magic the Gathering content as well on Friday Night Magic at our local game store, and which is Hypermind in Burlington, North Carolina. So there's a lot of stuff going on, man. We got some great stuff. And in the meantime, if there's not any TTRPG content or whatever, you can see my big old dumb head on there playing some video games. Usually like Call of Duty, or I do some Red Dead Redemption 2, things like that. So please pop over here, or if you're already here, pop back over to W2M Network and give them a follow. If you're on that network, then pop over to Misfits and Miscreants and give me a follow. That way you can keep up with everything that we're going to be doing and we're doing right now.
All right, so folks, thanks for joining us on our review, such as it was, of season 1 of The Wheel of Time. For Ronnie Adams, the Dungeon Master, the Misfit and Miscreant from the Screaming Boy podcast. I'm Mark Rattledge. Be well, be safe, and behave.